See where I put things I create at. Not for the Weaker Sex by David J. Rowbottom. Volume 5. How to Meet a Woman in the Modern Era, The Options. There are only so many times you can go through the nightclub mating ritual before you realize that you expend way too much effort for very little gain. A quick, back-arching, toe-curling, nipple-tweaking moment of orgasmic relief is a pretty poor reward for all the time. Effort, embarrassment, rejection, potential disease, stress, and cost of a single night out. Writer's note. A night out these days can cost the same as a second-hand Austin Allegro and be about as satisfying. So what are the options? Option A. You could take the money you've saved from not putting yourself through the living hell of a night on the town and buy yourself a mid-sized four-door British motoring classic. This wouldn't satisfy your desire for the closeness of a warm woman, but it would lead to the same kind of disappointment the morning after, especially when you peeked hungover through your bedroom window and saw that you had bought a yellow one. Not only would it bring into question your decision-making prowess when drunk and supplied with a moderate sum of disposable income, but also, once you checked out the interior of the car, your complete and total lack of an imagination. Writer's note. Early Allegro models featured a Quartic steering wheel, which was rectangular with rounded sides. This was touted as allowing extra room between the base of the steering wheel and the driver's legs. The Quartic steering wheel was unpopular and was dropped in 1974 when the SSS model was replaced by the HL. Writer's note. The 1973 SS model was replaced in 1974 by the Hale. The designer of the Austin Allegro, Harris William Mann, was born in 1938, so you would have thought he had perhaps heard of the little European skirmish that ran from 1939 to 1945. You know, the one where the silly tashed Austrian nutter was protected by his own guard, the Schutzstaffel, or SS. Was 29 years really long enough to wait before using those two letters on the back of a British-made car, when the name Adolf and the toothbrush moustache are still to this day considered imagina non grata? Just ask Charlie Chaplin impersonator Adolf von Ribbentrop. Option B. The need for a warm woman could, of course, be easily gratified by employing an escort. Writer's note. I mean the service industry and not the car. I wrote myself into something of a confusing vehicular simile there, didn't I? Sorry. At first, employing the services of an escort may seem a little desperate and unethical, but let's examine the idea from a clear and unbiased point of view. You're a decent human being who would never take advantage of anybody, so in the same way as you would thoroughly research, say, a new washing machine, you would very meticulously research the finest agencies with the nicest girls and the toughest fair working practices. I mean, you wouldn't want some toothless old hag chomping away on the old chap beside a biffa bin on a side street in an industrial estate, would you? No. What you would want is a classy lady, bearing all the attributes you seek in a mate, who will listen attentively to your stories, laugh appropriately at your jokes, be socially graceful in all situations, and perform pre-agreed sex acts that were chosen from a drop-down menu on the website, in silence, and then go home. Option C. Keep spending inordinate sums of money traipsing through endless nightclubs hoping that one day you'll accidentally spit while shouting above the music into the face of a woman who is kind and loving and funny and interesting and sexy in all the ways you want her to be. Option D. Bridesforcash.com, if you know what I mean. Do I need to explain? Okay. Maybe there are some of you out there, innocent people, who know not of the seedier side of the interweb, who have picked up this book in error and need to be brought up to date with the goings-on of the online world. Writer's note. About 0.0000000000000000000001% of the male population. And maybe these people are lucky enough to have never been subjected to the constant internet bombardment regarding penis enlargement, erectile dysfunction medications, and Eastern beauties who are in love with you and want to be your bride. That occurs if you so much as think about looking at a naked body on the internet and don't know how to delete your cookies. So, back to bridesforcash.com. There are websites, so I've been told, that specialize in finding lonely Western men, should we say partners, from alternative backgrounds. In essence, you choose a foreign lady that you like the look of from one of the many websites available, and there are thousands of sites from hundreds of countries, and begin a cyber relationship with them. I'm sure there are many success stories that involve loving people who have found their ideal partner in a foreign land. I mean, can we really be so narrow-minded as to believe that our ideal partner will always be from the same ethnic, social, and regional background as us? Writer's note. Sometimes even in the same town. Sometimes in particular areas the same family. On the other hand, it seems likely that this Eastern goddess, who has promised to love you unconditionally, raise your children in your image, do your housework, satisfy you completely in the bedroom, and regularly clear the guttering will, in all probability, change somewhat once she has a little band of rare metal on her ring finger. Within a month of the wedding, you'll find that your spare room is now your only room, and that she and her 4 brothers, Oleg, Andrei, Vasil, and Dmitro, have taken over the rest of your house and are running a human trafficking ring from your kitchen table. Option E. Dating sites. In this modern age, this would appear to be the most logical option. Surely. Here, in summary, are the factoids. You can find out what people look like. Writer's note, or at least what they want you to believe they look like. You can find out what people like to do with their time. Writer's note, or at least what they want you to believe they like to do with their time. You can find out what people don't like to do with their time. Writer's note, or at least what they want you to believe they don't like to do with their time. You can find out people's religious beliefs. Writer's note, very important, and let's face it, at least you know they'll be honest about this one. You can find out people's political beliefs. Writer's note, equally important and in many ways a bigger deal breaker than religion. You can find out what TV and movies people like to watch. Writer's note, yeah, right, for I like period dramas and documentaries read. I like soap operas which have dramas about periods, and I'm a celebrity. Get me out of this boring documentary. You can find out what music people like to listen to. Writer's note, important but not insurmountable. You can find out what books people like to read. Writer's note, again, nice to know, but book reading is not a social sport, and therefore it gives you a glimpse into the person, but not the complete story. You can find out what sports, if any, people like to watch and/or participate in. Writer's note, saying I like sport is like saying I like masturbation. It tells you in no way whether you participate or watch, and it gives no clue to the equipment you may use during it. You can find out who has inspired a person. Writer's note, even a lie will tell you that they've at least heard of someone. You can find out their birthday, writer's note, or when they wish it was. You can find out their height, weight, and body shape, writer's note, or when they were last happy with it. You can find out their eye color, hair color, and best feature. Writer's note. Why would they lie about this? You can find out what pets they like, dislike. Writer's note. Who lies about liking or disliking animals? You can find out if they're committed enough to trawl through all the bullet points I've painstakingly researched. Writer's note. You can even search by birthday. Who is going out with people based on their date of birth? I've just been told that it's probably so they know what star sign you are. Avoid these people like you would avoid a practicing druid. Now, let's investigate this a little deeper and try to establish some actual facts. Here are a couple of things people will not lie about. What they do like to do with their time. Unless you enjoy hardcore bondage, follow the Nazi doctrine, or enjoy reruns of the black and white minstrel show, then you can pretty much put anything you want here. You are, after all, looking for a partner with similar interests, and therefore want to be as open as you can be, no matter how mundane and pedestrian your likes may seem. You may even find a Nazi bondage fetishist with his own pink fluffy cuffs. As for the black and white minstrel show, I think you're probably in a minority of one, so I'd keep that to myself if I were you. What they don't like to do with their time. This seems an oddly negative aspect of what should be a wholly positive experience. Assuming the obvious things such as killing babies, having diarrhea, skydiving without a parachute, and watching reruns of the black and white minstrel show are taken as a given, what can you possibly gain from this? You will simply appear to be a negative person who has no interest in expanding your mind. Not an attractive feature in anybody. So in short, leave this section blank if you possibly can. Writer's note. Hang on. I think I've just realized the point of this question. The dating web gurus are clearly much more astute than I am. It is to wheedle out the nutters and corral them all together, isn't it? I don't like Muslims, Jews, Catholics, Anglicans, Buddhists, Sikhs, Baptists, Hindus, atheists, agnostics, and Sheffield Wednesday fans. I hate them foreigners coming over here and stealing our jobs. I'm not into politics or sport. I don't like Mondays or any other song by the Boomtown Rats. I could go on, but I think the nutters are by now wheedled and corralled. I won't contact them, and with a few cunningly ticked boxes on my part, they won't contact me. Very clever, you crafty dating site boffins. Here are some more things people will not lie about are religion, politics, TV, movies, books, sport, eye color, hair color, their birth date, pets, inspirational people in their lives, their weight. Weight? I think we may have entered the things that everybody lies about section. Their weight. It's a lie. You may as well arbitrarily pluck out a number and invent a new system of measurement. The kilo stone. Writer's note. About the weight of 1,000 balloons filled to capacity with something. Their height. It's a lie. Short men will add inches. Tall women will remove centimeters. 1 meter 22 and 3/16, give or take an inch. Writer's note. The metric inch is an ancient measurement system equivalent to half the height of an unquarried triptych from a henge, as yet undiscovered. You may as well ask a man to tell you the size of his cock and tell him you'll take his word for it. And even when you do eventually meet this 150 quadrilitre woman who is 3,000 parts in each acre, about a quarter of a furlong shorter than a hectare, there are so many new innovations that can mask perceived faults and flaws that the only chance you'll ever really have to see them in their true form is if you date them long enough to lull them into a sense of false security and burst in on them while they are taking a shower. Writer's note. This is a risky tactic because if they look as bad, naked, and unguarded as you suspect, then you will have to end an already deeply established relationship. Whereas if they are stunningly perfect even when they are dripping wet and halfway through shaving a leg, there's little chance that they will want to remain with a person who goes out with them for months, even years, with the sole intention of bursting in on them during a very intimate moment. And stare. Here are some such innovations. Magic pants, sucking pants, control pants, tummy and thigh slimming knickers, silicone padded pants, breast enhancers, bra inserts, padded bras, push-up bras, body shapers, midriff, waist and tummy shaper, open bust bodysuits, thigh slimming torsets, slimming arm belt bands. I mean, holy shit. What shape are these people? What on earth happens when all of this stuff comes off? Since the dawn of time, man has sought to defy gravity. In the 4th century, Aristotle believed that there was no effect or motion without a cause. Leonardo da Vinci sketched flying machines based on bats' wings. Galileo Galilei found that all objects accelerate equally while falling. Writer's note. He was quite the little smart bum until he mistakenly blurted out something about heliocentrism while eating trifle at Cardinal Bellarmine's birthday party. Newton performed the first looping header with an apple and went on to bore people for years about his new force of gravity formula. Writer's note. It is said that his friends used to blow out candles and pretend they weren't in when Isaac came to visit. They were always careful not to knock anything over as they crept about in the dark because, since Newton's discovery, things had started falling to the earth a lot. Nobody had really noticed it before, but then along comes Isaac and buggers about with the indisputable laws. Hooke, Kepler and Cavendish, to name only a few more, all donated their time, and not inconsiderable great minds, to force and attraction. And yet it is the work of armies of nameless employees working for big corporate businesses to whom we should bow, as they have silently and without much acknowledgement been helping women resist gravity for years. Wonder materials that de-chunk, debulk and defy the Earth's pull. One can only hope that one of the male inventors of one of these garments has, at least once, picked up a lithe and sleek beauty in a bar only to be overwhelmed later, at the time of disrobing, by a deluge of skin reaffirming Newton's law. But the deceit doesn't end there. There are cosmetics out there that can mask just about anything. Everything from light and dusty for an occasional blemish, to thick and gloopy enough to redesign facial features. There is makeup on the market that can, if used correctly, hide a beard. And then there's laser treatment. To men, laser treatment is a cool torture device used by Goldfinger on 007's Ghoulies. To women, it signifies a whole different kind of removal. They say that any society is only 2 meals away from revolution. Well, just imagine the scenario when women can no longer go to a clinic in a major town or city and have their moustaches lasered off. I don't know who'd be revolting first. All I know is that it would be revolting. A good photograph, however, is a true representation of a person and can be a window into their soul. It can show you a loving smile, caring eyes, happy wrinkles, and inner beauty. That is, of course, if the photo isn't the size of a postage stamp, blurred beyond recognition and taken by oneself at arm's length, and then uploaded onto the site sideways. Writer's note: how annoying is it when you click onto a thumbnail of a picture so you can see it in greater detail, and a whole new page opens, but the image is exactly the same size as it previously was. And let's face it, any potential matches will only contact you if your photo tickles their love buds. So the height and weight sections of dating sites need to be regarded as would an insurance claim. Writer's note: everybody else is adding a diamond ring and a 1958 Fender Stratocaster to the claim form, so, to even things up, you should add a little extra too, or perhaps shave a little off. It's best to simply deal with the awkward consequences of your vertical and horizontal untruths when you're stood in a restaurant explaining to a short, podgy nursing assistant who advertised herself as a sporty type in the medical profession why the guy she's currently staring at in disbelief really is the athletic 6-foot retail executive in the photo and not a slightly thinning supermarket shelf filler who plays FIFA football online at the weekend. 3 generic examples of female profiles. Example A: hi, I'm a yummy mummy. I have a 3-year-old daughter who is my entire life. If you don't want someone with kids, then please don't contact me. I love my job. It keeps me busy. I've been single for 2 years and love my own space, but I feel it's now time to find that special person who I can share my life with. I'm happy when I'm cuddled up on the sofa in my pajamas watching a movie with a takeaway and a bottle of wine. But I scrub up okay and love being wined and dined too. I like long romantic walks on a beach, short interesting walks by a canal, and dull and boring walks near a supermarket. I like going out, staying in, and hovering half in and half out at my front door in my wellies, leggings, posh frock, onesie and woolly hat. I love my soaps, but hate EastEnders, Coronation Street, Emmerdale, Hollyoaks and Neighbours. My favourite movies are rom-coms, action, snuff, war, comedy, documentaries, infomercials, sci-fi and blah, 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 blah. Example B: hiya, I'm a sporty girl. Love the gym. I'm high maintenance, love going out to bars and meeting new people. My friends say I'm crazy, love my family and friends. If you're looking for a mum, then I'm not for you. I need you to dote on me. I like presents, fast cars and strong men. If you earn less than me, then move on. If you like what you read, then get in touch. Thanks for looking. Example C: hello, I'm just a normal girl looking for my knight in shining armor. If you think you could be my Mr. Right, then please get in touch because I'd love to be your Miss Right. Love is a many-splendid thing. Opposites attract, so please don't be put off if you think we don't match. You only live once, and life is for living. Conclusion. So the options are a lovely sounding, if a little confused lady who likes the same things as any other normal person, a self-centered cretin, or a woman who writes in cliches. So which do you prefer after all that effort? The one with the best picture, of course. Dating sites and me. So this is how my first experience of dating sites went. I headed to the quick search area and ticked the appropriate boxes. There was none of that detailed and long drawn-out mumbo-jumbo for me. I decided that the profile simply must have a photograph, as, and I know this sounds shallow, I could not, in all sincerity, go out on a date with somebody without first knowing what they looked like. I thought that athletic and toned was a wonderful category for body shape, and so clicked it with excitement. What weight boxes should I tick? I decided that somewhere between 8 and 10 stone should cut the chubby and skinny chaff. Height should be somewhere between 5'4" and 5'8". And search. Ooh, lots and lots of pretty ladies. Here we go, I thought as I rubbed my hands together in anticipation. I winked, instant message, nodded, emailed, contacted, and flirted my tits off for a good half hour, and then sat back to watch the replies flood in. Gush in? Meander in? Trickle in? Drip? Come on, at least give me a droplet. I mean, I knew I was no George Clooney, but I was no Marty Feldman either. I sighed and went back to the quick search tab at the top of the screen to widen the net. Come on, women from the second tier of acceptance, I thought. A photo was still essential, but I rounded up the body shape to average. Under the weight section, I decided to tick all points between bones and blubber. Surprisingly, these boxes weren't available, so I settled for anything between 7 and 12 stone. For height, I decided I could accept anything from knee-high to eye level, with a pair of breasts, but again, due to some strange code of decency the site has chosen to adopt, I had to settle for between 5 feet and 6 feet. I pushed the search button and was inundated with the profiles of lots and lots of mediocre women. As I was now searching within the realms of normal people, I decided to be vigilant. I trawled the profiles eagerly and approached only what I believed to be the cream of Tier 2. A decent photo and a well-written profile were still vital. I started to wink. I sent messages. Occasionally I nodded so. Once I'd exhausted the 10th page of profiles, I realized that I'd reached a radius of proximity to my postcode just short of the Outer Hebrides and decided to take a break. This time, though, I didn't want to sit and wait. The experience of staring at an empty message box had taught me well, and I knew that no good would come from repeatedly checking to see if the women I'd messaged were online. I'd curse them if they were, and I'd curse if they weren't. I decided the best thing to do would be to walk away and do something productive for half an hour or so. I struggled to think of something productive, so I went for something beneficial. Still nothing came to mind, so I settled on doing something pointless for half an hour or so. TV or masturbation it was then. I decided on both, but not obviously at the same time. Writer's note. That is not to say that it's impossible to combine these two acts, but the pickings are slim at 7:30 in the evening. When I returned to the computer 2 hours later, I was much more informed about the American War of Independence and one sock down. I checked the screen. This time I had 3 droplets of interest. Giddy with anticipation, I hovered the little white hand over the red message button and clicked. Hi, thanks for contacting me. Unfortunately, you're not my type, but I think it's only polite and well-mannered to answer all my messages. Thanks for contacting me and good luck in your search, it read. Oh, okay, I thought. It's a no, but it's a very nice no. It amazed me how good manners managed to make somebody seem more attractive. Even though it would be pointless, I wondered if I should write back with a thanks for your honesty message and try to be so uber-witty that she couldn't help but change her entire outlook and type of man, just for me. I pondered this for a moment. I mean, it was a very well-written and polite response, but on reflection, I knew it would be a complete waste of my time and effort. I did it anyway and never heard back. Oh, little voice in my head, why do I ignore you so? I moved on to message received number 2. Hi, I'd love to chat. Message me back. A bit vague, I thought. I had another look at the photo before replying. I briefly hung my head in shame as I realized that I am a very shallow man. The moment of guilt passed quickly and I cracked on. The photo was unclear and I'd made a decent photo a requirement, but I could just about see why she got through my rigorous culling process. She looked intelligent and pretty, even when she was slightly out of focus. The main problem, though, was that the photo had been uploaded sideways. I couldn't really see myself being in a relationship with someone who didn't know how to flip a picture 90 degrees to the right. Add to that the fact that she appeared unable to chat without me first chatting to her. I reread her response. Hi, I'd love to chat. Message me back. What did it even mean? Well, was it my job to start a chat? I thought I'd already done that by contacting her in the first place. Hi, I'd love to chat. Message me back. Confused, I reread her profile. Average body type. 2 kids. Living in Derby. I decided against pursuing this any further, but thought a message back was the polite thing to do. After all, the First Lady had made me feel okay about my painful rejection, so I thought I would do the same. Besides, I felt inexplicably close to her, because she was the first online lady to show any interest in me whatsoever. She, at the very least, deserved thanks for that. Not thanks. Politeness, maybe. Acknowledgement in its simplest form. I clicked the reply button. Hi, thanks for getting back to me. Upon reflection, I feel that Derby is perhaps too great a distance for me. Sorry. Send. After 30 seconds, I got a reply. Prick! Why get in touch in the first place, then? What was it? Was my picture not good enough? The kids? Forget it. You're all the same. Oh, I thought, now she wants to chat. Realizing I had perhaps dodged a bullet, I moved excitedly onto message number 3, but she had no kids. She was 6 years younger than me with a decent enough picture, and she was only 12 miles away. Sounded promising. I held my breath as I opened the message. Hi, thanks for the message. I'm currently house-sitting for a friend, and she set me up an account on here for a laugh without me knowing. I was cheekily having a look and got your message. They're back tomorrow, and I don't have a computer at my house, so no pressure. But if you don't respond tonight, then your chance is gone. Kex. Ooh, that was interesting, I replied quickly. I figured that this could have potential, so hurriedly exchanged phone numbers and began a sometimes ambiguous and sometimes witty text conversation. Her grammar seemed good, and she didn't use the text speak. We soon decided to meet up and chose the most obvious landmark in the city nearest to both of us. So, this was online dating, was it? I had to admit that I was a little excited. Meeting for the first time. So, I'm standing just around the corner from the big wheel that appears in every Lon, Birmingham and Chesterpool from time to time, and according to my phone, it's 7:55 p.m. I look at my phone again, and surprisingly, it's the same time. My phone beeps as I get a text. Just walking toward the wheel now, I'm in a long red coat with a woolly hat on. Are you here? Just got here, I replied. I'm on the Costa Coffee side, just walking towards the wheel. Then I see it. A long red coat with a woolly hat on. Somewhere inside there appears to be all the things required to make a female human. I walked up to her and said her name with a question mark at the end. She smiled affirmatively. The salutation. Now, in my opinion, there are too many accepted greetings for this situation. It's about time that one definitive system was decided upon, and I'm going to do it right now. Before I do, however, let's examine the problem in greater detail and see if we can't come up with a solution together. There are some definite no-nos. For example, you wouldn't stand perfectly still with your arms by your side, giggle, and then look away saying nothing, grab one tit and say yo. The problem is that there are so many examples of a greeting in between these two rather extreme alternatives. A nod and a smile. A nod and a smile and a handshake and a hello. A vague kiss on the cheek. 2 vague kisses on each cheek. The very awkward third kiss back on the original cheek. Having only recently suffered the last option, it occurred to me that all the decision-making power lies with the kisser and not the kissee. Now, I'm not averse to a little kissing every now and then, but what I do object to is the inference by the 1, 2, or 3-time kisser that I don't know what I'm doing and have no understanding of social graces. Why can I not decide that 1 kiss is quite enough? If I do decide that 1 kiss is enough for this particular person, then why is it me who is left looking like I'm not as happy as the kisser to be involved in the whole affair? Nothing could be further from the truth, and yet here I am, having to do 3 yes, count them 3 kisses. I wish, just on one glorious mad occasion, I had the courage to continue kissing each cheek alternatively, just to see how long I could keep it going. Well, I'd say with an indignant shrug, that's how the outer Mongolian tribal elders greet each other at the annual gathering in Ulaanbaatar. In fact, it's considered quite rude to step away before the 13th kiss. Writer's note: Ulaanbaatar is the capital of Mongolia with a population of over 1.3 million people. It is also, rather interestingly, twinned with Leeds. Upon visiting Leeds in 2010, the delegation from Ulaanbaatar, whilst at a dinner hosted in their honour, were heard to say the following: I'm not too keen on them Yorkshire puddings, but apparently the lasses will do out for a good meat and potato pie. It may have lost something in translation, but you get the drift. Writer's note: above we see the Mongolian delegation upon arrival at Leeds Town Hall, while below we see them causing quite the stir on the Leeds Ring Road. So, here's my guide to the first time introduction. Male stranger meeting, male stranger, a nod, a smile and a firm handshake. Male stranger meeting female stranger, a nod, a smile and 1 small light peck on the right cheek. Female stranger meeting female stranger, a nod, a smile and a long session of full-on lesbian action. Simple, easy to follow, and not an ambiguity in sight. So with the greeting out of the way, we awkwardly decide where might be the best place to go for a quiet drink and a bit of a chat. The nearest Costanera Bucks wins out. We enter and walk to the counter. My date insists I order first. A cunning plan, as it will display my confidence while ordering a simple drink. Here is a version of the train wreck of a conversation I endured with the lovely girl serving me. It is based loosely on a combination of my bad memory and a deep-down need to forget it ever happened. Just a black coffee for me, please, I said, unaware of the verbal carnage which was about to beset me. Would you like Arabica, Excelsa, Liberica, or Robusta, said the girl whose name badge said Emma. Just black coffee, I repeated slowly. Café Noir, she corrected. What? I responded, realizing that I was about to play the idiot in a comedy sketch. I thought we were in Costanera Bucks. No, smiled Emma. I know you want Café Noir, but which bean? Which bean ein Berliner? I joked proudly. Emma stared at me without a single flicker of life in her eyes. You choose, I continued lightly. Or would you prefer a blend? She suggested. If I say yes, I began tentatively, are you going to ask me what percentage of each bean I want? Emma furrowed her brow in the way one does when first hearing Dirac's equation, and looked at my date. Writer's note: the Dirac equation where P0 IC the energy operator, E is the charge on the electron, a 0 is the scalar potential associated with the electromagnetic field, C is the speed of light, A1 are 4x4 matrices derived from the Pauli matrices. P1HX is a momentum operator, P2I3IZ. He's nothing to do with me, she said. This is our first date. Oh, how lovely, said Emma as she refocused her gaze on me. So, what bean would you like? What are the options again? I teased, as an audible groan came from the woman behind us in the queue. Arabica, Excelsa, Liberica, or Robusta? Surprise me, I said in an effort to bring this torture to an end. Oh, okay, exclaimed Emma with gusto, seemingly happy and excited to be given such creative license. So, one Americano. What size do you want? Hang on, I interrupted. What's an Americano? A black coffee, said Emma. I thought you said it was a café noir, I quizzed. It, is, she stuttered. I clearly had her on the ropes. What sizes do you have? I asked, believing I had a little power back. Demi, short, tall, grande, venti, and trenta. She rapidly rattled off with a knowing smile. Okay, I grumbled, you win. Give me a medium. Said Emma with a lilt of confusion and frustration that I hadn't used the designated words. You're up, I said to my date before she could continue. My date expertly asked for a tall cappuccino, and then said some other words, one of which sounded like labia, and our order was complete. As my brain scoured the menu board for words which could sound like labia, if said quickly, my date took it upon herself to put Emma out of her misery and pay. Meanwhile, I applied the laws of Occam's razor to the situation and assumed there wasn't a labia on the menu. Writer's note, Occam's razor or Occam's razor is a principle from philosophy. Suppose an event has two possible explanations. The explanation that requires the fewest assumptions is usually correct. Another way of saying it is that the more assumptions you have to make, the more unlikely an explanation. I made the standard polite noises that you're supposed to make when you realize that someone else has picked up the tab. But I've paid my fair share in the past, so I didn't really care. I won't bore you with any further details of the evening's events, but let's just say that apart from my coffee faux pas, it went well and another date was arranged. This time she invited me to her flat for a meal. That went well too. No hanky-panky, but a nice yet knowing goodbye kiss at the door. Date 3 was arranged and date 3 is, as we all know, hanky-panky time. I invited her to my place. The hanky-panky, third date, after standing still and staring at the dine-in for two section in my local Marks Spencer's for a solid 10 minutes trying to understand the multitude of combinations, a nice young lady came over and asked if I was okay. I said as I looked at her, as though she were the first human I had ever seen. Barbara on till 2 said you haven't moved for a while, and I was wondering if you were okay. Oh, yes, thank you, I stuttered. This is all very confusing. The M&S dine-in, she declared with astonishment. It's really very simple. Please let me help. After approximately 15 minutes, two things had happened. I had the perfect M&S dine-in for two meal, and Cindy, with an eye, knew more about me than most of my childhood friends. I also bought a bottle of the second cheapest red wine, the third cheapest white, and a case of Spanish cerveza, because I fell for the offer. I then spent the best part of the rest of the day tidying my house from top to bottom, making a special effort with the bedroom, just in case. I worked on the assumption that 12 miles was a taxiable distance, but she hadn't yet mentioned a taxi, so could be driving. While trying to casually assume nothing, I assumed every single scenario. I turned the oven on at the socket for the first time in a month and ran a duster over the hob. I also took the meal packaging with me while I had a knees bend so I could thoroughly read the instructions. Writer's note, we men do our best reading while pooing. Fact. With that information, I managed, in between vacuuming, to construct a spreadsheet that would ensure that each item would be cooked to perfection and be ready to serve at the correct point of the evening. I took a cursory look at the clock and saw that it was noon, so I went for a snooze on top of the duvet, just in case. Not forgetting to set an alarm just in case I drifted into a deep, deep sleep. The snooze Waking up to the beeping of an old-fashioned digital alarm clock, writer's note, when did digital become old-fashioned, can be very bad for the heart. It's basically technology shouting at you. Hey you, get up now. You're going to be late, I've done my job. If you're late for whatever it is you set me for, I will not be held responsible. Don't you hit that snooze button. Don't you dare. The alarm clock is clearly aware of how irascible it can make its owner, otherwise it wouldn't have evolved to incorporate a button specifically designed to shut it up, if only for 9 minutes. 9 whole minutes. The figure of 9 minutes for a general snooze was not chosen arbitrarily. It was specifically and painstakingly researched as the length of time that was least guessable to the most people. Writer's note, Hans Schreiber at the University of Moscovia dedicated 9 years of his life, 1962 to 1971, to the task of researching the optimum length of time required to make an average human being believe they were securing an adequate snooze time. Warning: do not use this fact in general conversation, because it's made up. We all understand and have an innate sense of time when given sentences like, be there in 5 and 10 minutes is all it takes. But 9 minutes? That's a mystery, to even the most avid clock watcher. Who sets a reminder for 5:09? No one. Who arranges to meet someone at 9 minutes to 7? The criminally insane, that's who. So the act of snoozing, receiving the magical 9-minute reprieve, is one of wonderment. We have no frame of reference and therefore roll over and simply enjoy each fantastical yottosecond of the 540 seconds we've been allowed. Writer's note, 1 yottosecond is equal to a septillionth of a second, or as they like to say in the poorer funded universities, quite quick. As we can't guess what 9 minutes feels like, we simply don't try. It is obviously impossible to stay awake thinking for 9 minutes, as we perhaps could with 5, so we just relax. The snooze button, although it feels a very human requirement, is a little like putting a cooking time of 3 minutes on a box of microwavable chips. We all know that they'll warm up nicely in 2.5 minutes, but we feel like we've cheated time and earned ourselves an extra 30 seconds of life. Writer's note, I calculated that I have saved myself just over half an hour during my relationship with the microwavable chip. It's the same as the do not wash and reuse label on bottled water. At first you feel as though you're doing something illegal, a lawbreaker. There must be a reason for this quite stern warning, but what could it be? What could possibly be the perilous chemical reaction between a plastic bottle and good old corporation pop, as we used to call tap water? The boffins, hired by plastic bottle manufacturers, tell us that wear and tear on the bottle from reuse can create cracks and scratches in the surface where bacteria can grow. This also releases additional microplastic particles which will get into our water. Additionally, thermal impact during storage also worsens the fragmentation process. Writer's note, are these the very same boffins who have told the aviation industry that using a mobile phone during the takeoff will down a plane? Let's hope the fundamentalist lunatic terrorists never find this one out, eh? All terrifying to hear. But plastic water bottles are safe to reuse a couple of times, especially if you are aware of the above warnings. Treat them carefully and avoid storing them somewhere where thermal impact might worsen the fragmentation process. Just imagine if you use 5 water bottles a week. That's 260 a year. If you carefully reuse each bottle 5 times, you're down to 52. If you drink tap water, it's none. But how much will me using less plastic actually help when you see the waste and disregard for the environment some large companies and even countries are guilty of? I hear you ask. My reply: the two are not connected. Be a grown-up. Take some responsibility. Look at this picture and decide. Writer's note. It is estimated that it takes an average plastic bottle 450 years to biodegrade. Marvelous. The glass bottle, it has been estimated, has been in existence for some 4,000 years, at least. If only we could think of some way to wash glass bottles and reuse them whenever we need to carry a liquid. Eh? Writer's note. The magic eye was a craze in the 1990s, where if you stare long enough at the picture and blur your vision, you can see a 3-day representation of an image. If you stare at this image for approximately 450 years, it will disappear. So even though, unlike microwavable chips and reusing a plastic bottle, the snooze button is stealing time from our day, we forgive it. We feel that, in some odd way, those 9 minutes make up for the fact that we stayed up late and ate peanut butter straight from the jar while watching a rather attractive lady sign for the deaf an episode of The Professionals. The evening, I awakened, rested by the 9-minute snooze, to the beep-beep of my phone. There was a text. It was from her. Taxi booked. See you at 8. Chashisaya. I felt a little giddy. The first capitalized kiss at the end of a text. That can only be a good sign. Smashing, I typed groggily and pushed send. Smashing. What the? Who text smashing? Too late, it had been sent. I sat in shock, awaiting the inevitable reply, knowing it would be something like, sorry, but upon seeing that you are capable of writing the word smashing in a text, I'm going to have to call off this evening. I will never see you again. Goodbye. But that isn't what I received. I got this. You're so funny. Can't wait to see you. Piquet. Get in. I even got a full colon followed by a capital P. I immediately looked up the meaning of this and smiled. Almost as bad as smashing, I mumbled to myself as I rechanged the bedding, just in case my clothes had dirtied it. 6:39 I showered. 7:09 I dressed like mannequin number 2. Writer's note, always good to have a backup outfit. 7:29 I got the lighting just right in the living room. Writer's note, this can take a while. It can't be so dark that you keep bumping into each other, but too light and she may see the dust you missed. 7:39. I spent too long choosing a pretentious jazz music playlist on YouTube. Writer's note. It is important to ensure you have Coldplay at the ready, along with some weak excuse for the jazz being on. Oh, it must have come on by itself when the other, much cooler music that I had been playing came to an end. 8 o'clock. The doorbell said ding dong. 8 hours 0 minutes and 9 seconds. I realized that I hadn't answered the door yet. 8 hours 0 minutes and 12 seconds. I answered the door. She stepped inside and gave me a slightly juicy but full-on kiss, followed by a hug. I noticed she had brought wine. I smiled excitedly. She made no comment about the music but grinned and said the obligatory, "Something smells nice." I toyed for a few seconds with the cheesy response, "That's me," but realized just in time that if I did this I would have to rip out my own tongue and offer it to her by way of an apology. We sat and chatted for a while, and then I asked her to take a seat at the table. "Do you need any help in the kitchen?" She quoted from the book of things to say when someone is doing all the work while you sit idly by. "Everything's fine, thanks," I retorted. "It won't be long." The meal. The starter was a flaky pastry pocket with a filling of some kind of fish substance. The description and serving suggestion picture, which I tried to replicate down to the side napkin, gave the impression that it was quite a sophisticated recipe, so I followed the instructions exactly. This backfired slightly as the resulting pastry was so light and delicate that it exploded into a fine dust as soon as an item of cutlery touched it, leaving us looking at each other through a light haze and trying not to exhale too energetically in case we reinvigorated of the flaky fog. Using convergent evolution, we both arrived at a similar solution to this problem at around the same time. I put my fishy substance gently on top of the flaky pastry, while she put the flaky pastry beneath the fishy substance. The main course cooking instructions seemed easier to follow, and I foolishly took its success for granted. It was okay. Warm enough not to give her food poisoning, but a little dull. She remained polite. The dessert was easy. Tear a foil lid off and serve in its own glass ramekin. And so to the sofa. And so to the kiss. We kissed passionately. I squeezed a bit of buttock. She made an involuntary love noise. We got the horn. See where I put things I create at.